Thanks. Hi, I'm Sven. I'm from Mono Solutions, and Mono Solutions is, for those of you who don't know us, is a 360-degree online presence platform with CRM at the very heart of it, with performance and speed as the core of our offering. So I'm going to talk a little bit about e-commerce with the angle of a reseller, actually. What you need to think about when you are selling e-commerce to your SMBs and what they really need. Next. So basically, e-commerce is growing, so that's really good for the business. But I'm not going to lie to you, it's complex to deliver e-commerce, and I will come back to the things you need to think about if you want to go to market with e-commerce product in your portfolio. But as you can see, e-commerce is rising globally, so there is a real potential to sell products here. And the really good news for those of you who represent agencies or fulfillment or service providers, do-it-for-me services, most SMBs, they are very scared of the complexities of setting up e-commerce. In fact, these numbers say that 3 out of 4, I think it's even more than that, search for help when they want to set up an e-commerce, because it's simply a complex world, and it's hard enough to build a website or anything else online. E-commerce is tricky. So they search for help, and that's equals to business for you guys. So that's great. And the great thing about e-commerce is that it also triggers a lot of add-on products like AdWords and CRM and all those things. So it's a great opportunity if you do it right. So how do you do it right? I think this slide is just to recap what are the real motivations for an SMB to launch e-commerce. And I think these 4 bullets sums it up. I think actually the bottom bullet is usually the most important one. My competitor is doing it, so I need to do it as well. If my competitor is selling online, then you feel the pressure to also do it as an SMB. But obviously they want to generate more sales, they want to expand their brand, they want to reach more customers, because online allows you to do that. But really what they're looking for is return of investment, bang for the buck. And it's bang for the buck that's really important, because setting up the initial e-commerce site that looks great and so on, it's actually not so difficult. What really is difficult is to deliver value for the SMB, return of investment. So I try to sum it up, what the real challenges are for you as resellers and do-it-for-me providers in this space. I think number 1 challenge is to help driving traffic to the SMB's e-commerce site, because who cares that you have a nice site if you don't have any traffic, if you don't get any revenue out of it? And that requires a lot of effort. So you need to be aware of that when you sell that to the SMBs, that it's not about setting up the site. That's of course also complex, but it doesn't have to be so complex. What's really important is to drive traffic to that site and help the SMB with that. Because in the online space, you are just a little dot among millions of other dots, and you're not going to be found unless you get help. So it's just a lot of cost for the SMB to get online, and there's nobody finding you in space unless you help them to gain some customers there. So you need to think that into your proposition all the time. Another bullet I put up there is when I look at the partners we are working with, I can see that one of the big challenges in this space is actually to keep the complexity low and the cost low when you deliver an e-commerce product. It tends to completely blow out of proportion with all kinds of complex features that the SMB want for this and that and this and that. And you need to control that. You need to manage the expectations hard. You need to think about what your proposition really is and what it isn't. And I think that's a real challenge you have to think about when you enter this space. And then I think another very important bullet point here is to keep the customer happy. And it's actually very, very, very difficult. But really it takes two things. It takes return of investment for the SMB, help driving traffic so that they get some customers, and then it requires good service. I think when I speak to all our partners, the number one feedback that I get from them is that if your service, if you're not helpful, back to the presentation on Wednesday, if you're not helping, if you're not really empathetic towards your customers, if you're not helping with them and really always being nice to them, they will leave you no matter how lovely you build the site and so on. So the service part, your service towards the SMBs is super important. And of course you need to deliver that bang for the buck. And that's all it is. It's all there is to it. I could close the microphone, go home, and that was it. But I'm going to continue with a few more slides. How do you find the right solution for the SMB? Again, keep things simple. Complexity is so easy to get into when we are talking e-commerce. And of course, if you're Walmart, you need something very bespoke. You need something really customized. I would not recommend any one of you, if you are thinking about going into e-commerce at scale, to go into that market, because that's just going to be an agency, customized, long journey of pain for you. The medium-sized companies that has maybe 1,000 products and a lot of revenue in e-commerce is also very complex. So if you're looking at going into e-commerce with a simple proposition, address the small businesses, the ones that have maybe 1 to 100 products and not more than that. Keep it simple for them. And I'm going to give you the recipe according to our experience and our partners' experience of what that should include. And I call it the MOB SEO CRM solution. And I know it's a really bad word, but I thought it was summarizing the 3 things you have to think about when you sell an e-commerce solution that works. And that is to keep the site mobile friendly. And of course, the reason for that is that I think it's up to 60% of all traffic to e-commerce sites are actually coming from mobile devices. It's not all the transactions that are happening on mobile. People tend to search for things on mobile these days, but then they go to desktop in most cases I have some numbers here, in most cases to actually do the transaction. But more and more transactions are also going to mobile. So your solution, whatever you sell to your customers, in order to keep them happy, in order to drive real revenue, you need to have a solid mobile solution that really works well. That goes without saying. SEO, it actually surprised me a little bit that according to the statistics, 49% or 50% of all traffic on e-commerce sites across the world comes from organic search. So that requires that your solution is super SEO friendly. And to be SEO friendly, and now it becomes a little bit technical, you need to think about all those small details in the solution that really makes the site and the e-commerce platform SEO friendly, such as in-domain assets. It's not a good idea to have a JavaScript calling external assets like product pictures and so on another domain, because that will hurt your SEO. You need an integrated solution that really works well, and you need to think about this. It's very technical. It may seem abstract to the SMB, but it's really, really important. If half of the traffic comes from organic search, you need to be SEO optimized to the max. And I said 50% of the traffic comes, and these statistics also say that about the transactions themselves, 22% of the actual sales comes or derives from organic search. So that shows a little bit about how important it really is. And you also see email there as being a very, very important driver for sales. Email and CRM needs to be at the very core of your e-commerce offering. It's not okay to just sell an e-commerce site. You need to have CRM capability with it, because it's 7 times more expensive to acquire a new customer than to retain an existing one. And surveys also say that the second purchase a customer does on your shop it has the double value of the order. So it really pays off to keep your customers there. So you need to think CRM into your offering when you go to market with e-commerce. It's super important. And then that's actually the last bullet points that I just read there. And it goes without saying, of course, sorry, I need to stay close to the microphone, that your site must look great. E-commerce, one of the main reasons people choose to not shop on an e-commerce site is because it looks ugly. It has to be super looking. That goes without saying. It has to perform well. And then your service. So think of these 3 things. Sell a simple solution to simple SMBs that is mobile friendly and does SEO really well and has CRM incorporated into it, and then give a great service. Help them drive the traffic. And that's basically my message. It's a very simple message and there's nothing new in it, but it's just keep that on top of your mind, because as soon as you start addressing the more complex things, it will come a road of pain and it's not scalable. So that's my message. Yeah, and of course, it goes without saying, Mono Solution has all these things in our solution. So that's a little bit of a commercial there. Sorry for that. Thank you. Okay. I have nothing more to say right now, but thanks.